Okay, so welcome everybody. This is a working group meeting that follows the CNCF code of contact, which can be summarized under "be nice to each other." And yeah, I'll quickly share my screen to present the agenda for today. And so as you maybe some of you know, some of you don't. So let's try to repeat quickly. For this trimester, we have this tracking issue, which is like single source of truth for what we're doing for this trimester. And we are trying to kick off 3 steps of the pipeline automation for the green review or Falco. And then also a benchmarking investigation that we would like to kick off. So like this is the objective for this trimester. The process is that we write first proposals so that we then further refine them into implementation issues. And as you can see, proposal 1 has been written. The PR was merged. So thanks again, Ross and Dipankar, for the great effort. It's really super nice to see this rolling. And yeah, maybe Ross, would you like to present the action issues for the implementation of the proposal 1? Would you like to take over and share the screen?
Yes, sure. Let's do that.
Yeah. Okay, you should be able to share now.
Yes, is that coming through? What I'll probably do is start with the proposal for a start. So we had the proposal merged, and then out of that, we've now created 3 tracking issues. And so before we just go to the proposal, this is sort of the high-level architecture. So the first issue that I'll share is what we're calling the release trigger. And so this will be a scheduled GitHub workflow that will run, and we'll look for new releases of Falco in this case. And whenever we detect a new release, we will then kick off the pipeline, and the pipeline starts with the deploy step. So for example, for a start, we would find a new version of Falco, and then we would start the pipeline, and we would deploy Falco with that version in the configuration that we need. And so the first issue is the trigger, the second issue is the deploy step, and the third issue is we need to change how we're deploying Falco with Flux just to adapt to the new design. So those are the 3 issues. So let me just switch to the tracking issue. Also, if anyone's got any questions on that so far, then just go ahead. Yes, let me just find the right issue here. Yeah. Yeah, so these are the 3 issues that have been created. So the first one is the release trigger. Well, Dipankar, we've been discussing about this one. I think you're wanting to work on this one. Let me just click through.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah, great. So what we do is we'll have a clusters.yaml file of the projects that we've onboarded, and obviously Falco is the first project. And then we have these subcomponents, which in Falco's case is different drivers that they would like to test individually. We're still searching for a better name than subcomponents. So if anyone has any inspiration on naming, then we can do that, and we're keeping the proposal updated as we work through the implementation. But so essentially what it'll do is the release trigger would find a new release of Falco, and then it would trigger the pipeline 3 times once for each of these configurations. And we do that by calling the GitHub REST API and sending out a workflow dispatch event to do that. So that's the first issue. The second issue is the deploy step. And we had in Slack, I think Sebastian would like to work on this one. And so essentially what we do is we accept the inputs from the trigger. We find the manifest for what Flux resources we want to create. And then there's kind of 3 steps. We apply them first. Then we need to wait until Flux has reconciled the resources. And at this point, the deploy step will then hand over to the benchmarking step. But as we just get started, what we'll then do is at the end, whether we succeed or fail, then we need to delete the resources, and that's to clean the cluster for the next pipeline run. So we just delete those same resources, and we wait in that case for the finalizer to be removed. We have a potentially also where we need to probably raise a service test kit to have a new GitHub Access token. But so this is the second step on the deploy step, and then I'll just go to the final one, which is the Flux resources. And so the current state that we have is Flux is deployed 24/7, and it's deployed via Flux. So we reconcile the resources. And so what we're going to do is we're going to remove that. So Falco is only running when we're actually running a test. And then we need to template the values. So depending on which driver we'll need a slightly different configuration of Falco, and we need to template the version. So we deploy whatever release we just created, we deploy that. Something else that's worth to note is we'll also be able to trigger the pipeline manually just via the REST API. And so we'll need to do that during development because Falco releases are not that often. There was one about a week ago, but then the previous one was, I think, was February. So we'll also need to be able to trigger the pipeline ad hoc as we kind of develop it and also test things like new benchmarks. But yeah, so that was really an overview of the three issues that are created. And so for this third one, it changes the Flux resources. We're looking for if anyone would like to work on that, and we can post that in the channel as well. But yeah, that's where we are. Kind of, yeah, it's a good stage. We've got the proposal merged, and we're ready to start implementing.
Had one doubt, like if we are creating resources in a particular node, okay, and the Falco will be installed in that node, and I think we will need a concurrency setup, no, for the GitHub action.
Yes, yeah, we had that in the proposal, so we can only run one instance of the pipeline at a time. So yeah, you quite right, Devanka, we can do that via concurrency. So we'll trigger maybe the three configurations of Falco, but we'll need to test each sequentially because we can't test two in parallel, for example.
Okay, so two benchmark tests cannot be done in parallel, no? Yeah. Could we do that if it's possible?
I think later, for example, we could even provision nodes on demand. But for the proposal for a start, we wanted to avoid that to kind of reduce complexity. So I think for the first iteration, we can just run the pipeline sequentially, and we can iterate on that later. Like as we extend that.
Yeah, sure.
I have a couple of questions. So how do you assume like the benchmark part of so proposal 2 basically that's part of one pipeline, or do you call another pipeline like and then it goes back or to the calling
Yes, yeah, I
pipeline?
think we still need to determine that as we work on the next proposals. But I think we probably will need at least a higher level workflow that has all the steps. So there's deploy, then benchmark, and maybe we structure those as separate workflow files to make the code kind of more maintainable. But I think we will need to run those steps. So once the deploy step's finished, then we can hand over to the benchmark step. And the work you and Nikki are doing on the benchmarks that will can then fit in. And then we go back to the deploy step at the end just to do the uninstall to clean the cluster after.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. And Flux. No, three questions. Another question is related. So you said you mentioned you were describing that the pipeline might be run 3 times. That would be in the case if you have 3 different tests, or I maybe I didn't hear. No?
Yes, let me share again. So it's the case of we have 3 drivers for Falco. Actually, is it in this one? I guess in the first issue. Yes, so we have these 3 drivers, like modern eBPF, KMod, and eBPF. And so we'll need to deploy a different image for Falco, and I think a different configuration for each. So that's what I was meaning by the multiple instances of the pipeline.
All right.
So in the end, like we need to produce an SCI score for the different drivers, right? Like, so we'll have 3 sets of different SCI scores for each and every driver, right?
Yes, yeah, because I think the Falco team wanted to test the different configurations, but for other projects, we might have a simpler case where we just have a single, component. So this subcomponent is optional. It depends whether the project needs it or not.
Okay, interesting. Because you can also have different tests, and then you might run them also as different pipelines. Because yeah, because otherwise when do they finish? No, if you have different. So now I'm testing. I don't know. I don't know much about benchmarking, but stress NG. Then I'm testing something else. Then I'm testing something else, and in each case.
Oh no, it's not like that. The stress NG and Redis and the Falco event generator, they all run for every
the same
driver.
time?
Yeah, for every driver, but this is really like a different configuration of Falco. So it's like Falco configured in a different way. So the one is like you have the project, but it's like 3 drivers. But all the benchmarking which is set up is common to all of them. So it's just that they have a requirement of having 3 different SCI score per project driver.
Okay,
so
but
you
this
can
is the
imagine
case.
like you can imagine like I think a different driver has a different image, or it might be might have different config map values and so on. So you really deploy Falco in 3 different configurations, as Ross said.
Okay, but you can also
But
have different tests that you want to run. So this is another sort of
yeah, this would be another
dimension.
complexity, but for the moment they have the same sort of benchmark. So like for the moment we have I will talk a bit more into details when I'll show proposal 4 for the investigation of the benchmarking. But yeah, for the moment Falco defines the benchmarks, and it defines them equal for the three project drivers.
Okay.
Yes, and so we have these 3 inputs for the different configuration we need to test, but we can run the same benchmarks, for each driver. And this subcomponent is optional. So for other projects, we might not need it. But in the main pipeline, those will be available. So these three inputs, for example, would also be available to the benchmark step.
And one last question.
Mm.
So Flux is not used anymore in proposal 1, or is it?
Yes, yeah, we're still deploying with Flux, but we're not using the Git controller, so the resources are not deployed 24/7. So what we'll do is we'll still create the customized CRs, what the Falco team are using. So we'll still create the customization CRs, and then we'll wait for Flux to reconcile it. But we won't use the source controller anymore to reconcile the resources in the repo.
Oh, clear. Thanks.
Yeah, and any other questions on proposal 1? Yeah, okay, cool. Should we move on to the next one then?
So just a reminder, like if there is any doubts, you can always read proposal 1, and if you feel like there is still something which is not clear from proposal 1 and the documentation, yeah, you feel free to open an issue, like provide a PR or like discuss this in the team. But like it's a living document, and like all the source of truth also for everything that we decided so far. And yeah, like I can maybe share a screen and again, and so like we have another overview. So here we are here in this tracking. So we discussed all the proposal 1 related issue, also the tracking issue for the implementation. So like this part is done. Now we just need to complete and implement the 3 issues in the tracking issue here. And then like for benchmarking, Flavia, would you like to give us an update? What is the state? I know you and Nikki have done good progress on it. I don't know if there is already something to share or some doubts, question that you might have, or if you want to keep it for the next time.
Yeah, we've made progress. It's still work in progress. So if you look at, I mean, we pushed some what we wrote so far, but it's yeah, it still has a lot of inconsistencies and yeah, it's basically work in progress. I don't know what's best to share. No, we were thinking about the how it connects to proposal 1. That's why I was asking Ross about what was the thinking if we had to if it is one pipeline or calling, but that's something we will define further on. We started looking at how we would implement tests or specified tests for a particular project, and giving some examples. There were some things that came up. We were wondering if always the benchmarks are something that you run for a certain amount of time, or can there be benchmark tests which have a beginning and an end?
Yeah, that's a very good question. It's something that it's actually an open point. I also covered this on the investigation. So I think for now, what we agreed is like we'll run the test for 15 minutes, but this might change in the future. It's an open point, like how long a test should run, and hopefully when we get started with the proposal 4, we'll answer this kind of question as well.
Yeah, it probably would help to look at existing projects and look at how they do the benchmarking, because then a lot of things will come out that we didn't think of.
Yeah, and to answer maybe the section of how to bring the work together with proposal 1 and proposal 2, I don't know if that could be feasible, but maybe we can have a single pipeline with different steps, as like Rose was proposing, so it gets executed once. It's easy to maintain, and then everybody can work on its part without too much influencing the work.
Yeah, we were thinking that, but make it sort of somehow templatable, so that if there are changes that you don't have to, like if we decide to change something, then we have to change all the projects, you know what I mean? Like, so to make it modular enough so that it's maintainable in the future. But it's still a lot of things to figure out. So
yeah, no worries. Like you can present the overall solution once it's finalized. But thanks for the update. Marlo, you wanted to say something? You have your hand raised.
Yeah, I went and spoke with the new AI Kubernetes group that's been forming I guess last week, maybe it was the week before. And they are interested also in having a sustainability angle, because if you look at a lot of these systems, they use huge amounts of power. So with the benchmarks, I would start thinking vaguely. I mean, we're not there yet because I'm still talking with them, putting together some sort of benchmark on LLMs. So, and I don't know if we added Jira to that, because I don't want, because you guys are doing really good work, and I don't want to stop that work to go do something else, right? But that's something that to keep in mind is probably coming in this direction.
So like when you mean benchmarking of LLM, you mean like inference or training, or what kind?
Probably both. I would focus on inference though. If you look at some of the inference models, those are usually what's used day to day. Training is usually like one large job and then you're done.
Yeah, I think we are like, it's a good point. I think we have to discuss this with Leo as well.
Yeah.
Because I remember like we are open. So like the current for this current quarter, the idea is to put in better shape what we have right now. So like to have this automated pipeline and like consolidate. But I think for the next quarter, the idea was to try to extend to a new project. And so it might be that, so I'm not sure if, so I think the first thought was to have another CNCF project. I don't know if we can have is it like AI, is it a tag, or I don't know, what is this like in this CNCF space? Is it
yeah,
or
it would still be a CNCF. We would probably have to pick one that focuses on LLMs and then go from there. So I'm not sure which one we would target at this point. It may
like
also be
sounds like a very exciting next use case, or at least I would be very exciting to
yeah,
the perception of it.
I think it would be really relevant, honestly, and we would if you look at part of it is right now we're still focused on power on the node, but we're also going to need to start looking at measuring GPUs. And I know Kepler, they're trying to add in measurements for NVIDIA and other AI cards. So it'll be, well, accelerators. I call them AI cards, they're accelerators. So if we can start being able to incorporate that information, that would be helpful too. I spoke with Wamin on that.
Yeah, let's also put Leo in the loop, see what he answers. For me, it would be exciting.
Leo will be on board. I've already spoken with Leo a bit on this.
Okay, and if he's positive, definitely let's go. Like, I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So let's
and we'll want and when we do that, we'll want both performance and sustainability, because it may be that we do some tweaks that help with power, but you know, you're depending on your tolerance for a slower response, right? You may be able to tweak it down, but still get within a particular tolerance of response.
Yeah, let's see. Will be interesting.
For the which level said about the flexibility of the two pipelines, what we can do is we can make one parent pipeline and we can inherit the secrets and call another workflow. That can help a lot. Like we can give workflow call, workflow call, and we should be able to do dispatch. Maybe that will work for us. What do you think, Ross?
Yes, I think that's part of the plan for the benchmarks. In some cases, we might be calling out to other workflows, and then potentially the project could then be managing those workflows in a different repo. So I think that the understanding is that that's something that's been kind of factored into the benchmarking proposal. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And sorry, related to what Marlo brought about AI, LLMs, and so on. I had like, you probably discussed this, but I had this existential question, like, because we are calculating emissions of projects, but actually it's all about the energy, no? Because all of the rest of the parameters are constant. If we run them somewhere else, they change, but it depends on, we're basically, that part is measuring only the green reviews system and not the CNCF project. Was there a reason why we wanted to calculate the whole emissions and not just show the energy? Like, is it to raise awareness, for example, or just?
Yeah, I think like we had a pragmatic approach, so we wanted to have some something shown by by QCon Europe, and then like we decided on SCI, and then like since we were a bit short on time, like we have this static values, knowing that we were going to like do another round of updates in the next quarter. But this is also something that we need to discuss at proposal 3. So like if we want to change something at the metrics we want to collect, what and how to store those metrics specifically, shall we stick with the SCI? Shall we change something within the SCI? Shall we save energy? What do we want to show, and so on? And this will all be taken into account. These are all good questions, and hopefully when we write down proposal 3, we'll also clear out those kind of doubts.
Okay, nice. Thanks. Clear.
Yes, I agree with that as well. I think proposal 3, when we look at the report step, is the right place to look at it. And so far, for example, for SCI, we're using an average carbon intensity, so we can compare the values. But I agree, Flavia, I think energy is the most important aspect of the SCI calculation, and that's what we want the projects to optimize. So I think it's good for us to, to look again at it when we work on the third proposal. And we also had the request from the Falco team as well to have kind of SRE type metrics as well, so they can compare with the sustainability metrics we're providing with the metrics they're kind of familiar with. I think that can be useful going forward as well.
Yeah. Now, having said that and having asked that question, I think it can be interesting to raise awareness of how much the embodied emissions have an impact on your emissions. So maybe it's just okay to keep showing it like this.
I mean, some of the conversations I've had with people have been that power is ultimately the most measurable item. And we can translate back and forth according to what region and then what the power sources are to carbon. But ultimately, the best bet we have is to get the power use down and maybe have some regional assessment.
Yeah, but on the other hand, then we will never change the rest. So we want to influence the other part. But
yeah, those are all valid concerns, and I think one of the observation that we pointed out at the first SCI score that we had was that the embodied carbon had like 98% of prevalence on the total emission, and that actually it's something, as you said, Flavia, that it's under our control. So how much sense does it make to show that? But also in the calculation of the embodied carbon, there was a factor of time that we considered to only calculate the embodied carbon emission related to the 15 minutes of the functional unit. Those are all open questions, and I think like, yeah, to cut it short, and like it's all something that we need to discuss at proposal 3 level, and yeah, like take some time to do some consideration, open up questions to everybody, gather input, and decide next steps. Okay, proposal 3, that what is it? No. Sorry.
Yeah, I think actually, yeah, it should be in the benchmark. Yeah, 95. Okay.
Yeah, proposal 3 that, by the way, is looking for an owner. I think I now have sometimes maybe to also work with someone else with this, and yeah, like just to have a free like an overview of what we need to do. Like here I pointed out some, so like there are 2 subsection of this proposal. One is like metrics, and another one is long-term storage. Those are like interrelated because yeah, like once we know what metrics we need, we also maybe can define how to store them. If you feel like this should be better split, we can also split it at some point with two different proposals. And regarding the metrics, like we have like the open point about embodied carbon, the open point about the functional unit. Also, like we need a process to see if like we should incorporate traditional SRE metrics or more low-level energy or power metrics, and any other metrics that might be interesting for the future. So like we do a first review of the metrics that we choose, and okay, what we feel like we want to focus on for this quarter. And then, like as always, the goals to achieve are to draft the proposal for the metrics extension, draft the proposal for the long-term storage, and review the proposal. And maybe here is where we could shout out to some experts. So both on the long-term storage and on the metric topics, so that they could, for example, help in the review of the proposal and ensure the technical quality of the product that we're gonna of the whole action issue. And yeah, is there any comment? Chris, you said like you wanted to maybe think about the metrics part.
Yeah. I'd just like to clarify what you mean by metrics as well. Is this metrics from what, I suppose, is the first question. From Falco, is that what we're talking about, or? Yeah,
like it's metrics about Falco mainly, yes. So after we run the like install and run the benchmarking, then Falco will produce some either SRE metrics or what we call energy metrics, which is like usually what we get from Kepler.
And is the intention to be somewhat reusable as well, so it's not specific to Falco?
Exactly,
but
yes.
Yeah, okay.
This is the main idea, to have a first set of reusable metrics, and then of course it will be like also a living set of metrics that we can edit over time. But we're going towards like version 0.0.2. So like right now we have 0.0.1, and we'll try to see like how we change also this aspect in version 0.0.2.
Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to start thinking about it because I need to anyway. But other things, yeah, I just need a little bit of time to do that thinking.
Yeah, would you like to do it on your own, or would you like to, for example, I know that Nikki and Flavia set like some time aside to do it together, like in a shared session. We could do this as well if you want some support, or like if you prefer to work alone and then post it.
So this is probably likely using Kepler, yeah?
Sorry?
You said this is likely using Kepler to deliver those metrics, or?
The energy metrics come from Kepler, yes.
Then I need a little bit of time first to just understand that better, to know what's even possible. I don't know, a couple of weeks maybe. And that coincides with the fact that for the next couple of weeks, I'm actually going to be in Melbourne anyway. So it's such a different time difference. It's going to be pretty hard to have any kind of collaborative session. So maybe in a couple of weeks, if we could do that, that might be good.
Okay. So can I assign you for the, I don't know, the metric part, and then like maybe you give us an update of the of the draft even, and
no, and I'm happy to definitely discuss with people. I just need a little bit of time to be able to discuss, I think.
Yeah, no worries, no stress. Also, like in 2 weeks, if you can't make it, it's okay. But at least we know that I don't know, the metric side of this, you between quote start to own it or start to think about it, and then like would be the go-to person
start
for the
to think, and the other part we can formalize at a later date.
Okay. Yeah, it's part of my task to push a bit.
I'm just trying to be realistic over the next couple of weeks. Yeah.
Chris, just to add on the metrics. So on the energy metrics, we're primarily kind of using Kepler for that. So we're using the metrics Kepler provides. For the SRE metrics, probably it'll just be standard Kubernetes metrics. So actually initial at the bottom are the 3 metrics that Falco asked for, which is like, I think 1 with CPU and 2 on memory, but they'll probably be coming from like kubestate metrics or node exporter, probably kubestate metrics. So that's kind of the metric sources. So Kepler for energy, and then just regular Kubernetes metrics for the rest.
Yep, that's cool. I spent 2.5 years working for a Prometheus-based company, and it's been a little time between I finished with them, but I can drag that memory.
That's a very good preparation. So yeah, that's great if you could talk about.
Okay. And yeah, then like we'll discuss some thinking here. Yeah, like I also started the proposal 4. I forgot to link it actually, but it's there. Yeah, let me do this like this. But I also put this link here. Okay, so this is the action for proposal 4 instead. And I try to describe the current state. So what we would like to do with this proposal is to start an investigation on benchmarking and the possible strategies that we could choose there. So at the current state, the project that we did for Falco, like they decided their own benchmarking, and you can check the implementation at the links. But what is this like? Really, if we open it real quick, this is just a customized that applies some like some resources that are in another directory, which is the directory that Falco gave us for to address the different installation and configuration of the config map and the daemon set. And you can see already like they gave us like 3 subfolder for the different drivers. So that's what we discussed before. And then for a single driver, you can see like there is like the stress ng, a Redis and Falco event generator. This is like the benchmarking configurations. And then like there's the daemon set and the config map. And like this for different drivers are like they have the same benchmarking. So like always stress ng, Redis, and Falco event generator. And so like this is the current state. They choose their own benchmarking framework. And this is all on the project side. And this is not the optimal state. Why is not that? Because like what we would like to have is like that we should control the benchmarking, meaning why? There are 2 main whys. One of them being that if every project set up its own benchmarking, it's not easy to compare different green reviews. This might be one big why, because like basically you do test things differently. So really you're doing different reviews. And another argument could be that in the future, one project could set up ad hoc benchmark that minimize carbon footprint or like energy or power, and because they would like to gain a better score, right? So this is also not ideal in the long term. So there are, for those 2 reasons, there are some open questions. So like what kind of benchmarking do we need? What is a good objective of a benchmarking? So example, like should it reach some hardware target limit, like memory utilization or CPU? And like how long should the benchmark run? Like this kind of question, like are very high level, but also like might need a lot of details to answer those questions. And some other consideration, which are a bit on the side is that it's good to have a standard approach which benchmarking, but some projects like Falco might have specific need that they want to have. So for example, Falco needed a given kernel event rate. So how do we combine the possibility to have like some custom benchmarking? So like we have a baseline, and then like we enable the possibility to define something else if it's specific. Like, should we even allow this at all, or should we not? And like, what would be the implication of such decisions? A no-brainer answer might be that we define the standard benchmark, and then like we let the user configure additional benchmark. But then, of course, if you think about it, then we are back at problem that like we have different benchmarking for different projects. So some thoughts needs to be put into it. Ideally also, we can find some experts in the benchmarking. Already found the typo. Fine.
Antonio,
Yeah, sure.
what we can, I guess we might have discussed about this, like some previous meetings. Like we can create some grouped benchmark things, na? Where each project will fall under certain category, and we will have, and those category will have a certain constant looking benchmarking test, and then we can use those, something like that, which we had previously.
Yeah, we can definitely group together the benchmarking. Then like we should understand, okay, do we allow, for example, some custom benchmarking to be added on top? And I think like this question are answered once the more root questions are like, what kind of benchmarking do we need, and what is a good objective of a benchmarking? Once we answer those two questions, maybe we're able to answer the other two. But definitely it can be a set of benchmarking. It doesn't need to be one. And maybe I can also specify this a bit better. So like here I wanted to but then
Also, as far as I remember, there was another discussion, like instead of having only stress testing, we could have some synthetic workloads, something like that. Like they were doing some particular task, kind of almost like a real world thing, which I think this was discussed. Not sure, but yeah, remembering those.
yeah, yeah, like I need to add the section. So like something like, let me think about it. It's like, what is a benchmarking, maybe, because this is interesting point. What is benchmark? And like here it can be mixed. It can be a set of bench. I need to think about this through, like I cannot do it live, but I will add this section because I think right now what we have, I can maybe describe it in the current state. So right now what we have is a combination of synthetic data generated. I think this is the part of the microservice demo, and this benchmarking. So yeah, like maybe I'll do it in the current state and reflect this in a part. I'll also note down as an action point. So like,
Yep, thanks.
Yeah. And this I can assign myself. And then proposal for describe the current state being a mix of synthetic data generation and proper benchmark. And this I can define a bit better. Okay. And what about you, Ross? Like, what would you like to work next? Do you think you're going to one of the implementation issues, or would you like to, I don't know, kick off another proposal? Maybe I think one of the implementation issues is left, right? But we can see if we can find it. I don't know. Maybe you. What would you like to do?
Yeah, I'd be fine with taking the third implementation issue, because that's also the one where we need to kind of restructure the Falco resources. And I've already been chatting with Melissa about that, so I can sync with her on that as well. So yeah, that would make sense, because maybe we can get those three all started, and then look at some of the later proposals. But I think having me for the third issue, the Falco changes, sounds good.
Okay, then I'll focus on, for example, getting try to talk to some people to see if we can find some metric expert and some long-term storage expert to join the group and see if they can take the proposal there if they have any questions.
Yeah, I think that would be great. And I think also we're kind of looking for benchmarking experts as well. I think getting people with experience in these fields will be super valuable.
Yeah, then I'll be on the outlook for experts. I can do this. All right. Yeah, anything else you would like to discuss? Otherwise, from my side, the kind of updates are done. It's very nice to see so many things moving at once. And yeah, like, thanks again for proposal 1. It's very exciting to see it rolling. And yeah, anything else you would like to discuss? Thanks also for the updates on proposal 2. And let's see, hopefully we'll see something exciting soon.
Yeah, just a +1 for me. It's great to see that the proposal 2 coming along, and also to getting started implementation. So yeah, it's good sense of progress. It's nice.
And maybe obvious to say, but if anyone else wants to have a say or have input for proposal 2, be my guest. Just let us know.
Yeah, I think we'll have the big round of discussion once the PR, like one draft of the PR is there, then like we'll start bombarding you with messages and considerations. No worries.
Okay.
So it doesn't have to be perfect, the first draft. So just make one and then we'll provide the inputs there.
Yeah.
Yes, because definitely the first draft of proposal 1 wasn't perfect, and we did lots of iterations. Just to warn you, I think we had about 80 comments or something on the PR. But so I think it's great. Hopefully, it'll be maybe a bit less than that because it's also the first one. But I think getting into that review stage and getting feedback from folks, will be great.
Okay, great then. If there's not anything else, I think we can also close the call, and see you in 2 weeks. Thank you so much for joining, and have a nice week.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Oops.